So, from a criminal defense attorney working in a state run organization called Legal Aid South Africa to a businesswoman that is about to take the stage on a world platform, a very good morning to all guests joining us on the summit from near and far. My name, as Harry said, is Tsecho Khailai. I'm Mrs. South Africa 2024. I'm an attorney, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a wife and a mom and so many, many other titles. In the words of Michelle Obama, there's absolutely no limit to what we as women can accomplish, and this is what gives me the surety that my titles definitely don't end there. So today, I'd like to share my journey of becoming, my journey of transformation, of resilience, and of purpose, as well as some important lessons that the corporate world has taught me in my time there, lessons that I think and believe that I'll be taking with me into my journey as an entrepreneur. So, my life before Mrs. South Africa, my story is probably like many, many others. I grew up in a close family in Soweto. My parents worked really hard to make sure that myself and my three older sisters get a good education to make a good living for ourselves. Education was always an important part of our lives. With my mom being a teacher and my father being a bank teller's instructor, it was inevitable that learning and development would be an integral part of our home. Consciously or unconsciously, this influenced my decision to study a Bachelor of Laws degree and pursue a career in the legal fraternity later, specializing with a postgraduate diploma in labor law. I worked as a public defender for about 3 years before moving to private practice and eventually into a large ICT corporate as a non practicing attorney. I stayed in corporate for about 7 years before taking the brave step of launching Tsecho Khailai Attorneys, my boutique legal consulting company, which offers services in labor relations, commercial contracts, and BE compliance, amongst others. My career wasn't always free from challenges, as any career would be, and I myself contended with being a part of the unemployment crisis in South Africa. It was in times such as those when I was unemployed where I realized that my destiny really involved me taking an active step in making something of myself. I had to become intentional about it. And sometimes, when you're faced with adversity and have no room to move, the only way out is up. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. My climb of the corporate ladder was relatively quick, but not always fulfilling. By the age of 31, I found myself managing a critical department within a reputably large entity, and somewhat thriving in it. I would say I was thriving because I was achieving all the goals set out for me. I was also doing so with not as much resources as one would expect. It was not always easy, but I learned to make do with what I had, which brings me to the first lesson that I learned. Start with what you have. It's easier to complain about not having resources or not having much to work with because it's more convenient not to do anything but to actually do something. So start with what you have, whether it's just your phone, your PC, a person that you can work with, or ideas that you have. Start with what you have, right? So back to my corporate climb, which continued steadily as I seemed to be making a name for myself. It was more my work that spoke for me rather than people. I got to a point where I got a job offer elsewhere, and thus I resigned from my manager role. The offer I had received was quite prestigious and respectable, so I accepted it without any reservations. But lo and behold, a mere 2 days before I was set to begin in my new role, I was informed that the role was no longer available. So, distraught and panicked and unemployed, I had to devise a plan. I went back to my employer, who I just resigned from, and asked for my job back. Luckily for me, the vacancy hadn't been filled, and my then boss agreed without a second thought. When I asked him how he agreed so easily when I just hurt him by resigning, his response led me to lesson number two. He told me that my work speaks for itself and that I had upheld a work standard of the highest levels. I'm not sure how I'd done so, but I took this as a lesson to never drop the standards of my work and to always let my work speak for me, even as an entrepreneur. So then, fast forward to the about late 2022, where things were starting to feel a bit monotonous and I needed a change again. My child was slowly outgrowing being heavily reliant on me, and my work had sort of plateaued. I was itching for a new challenge and an opportunity to meet new people and to transform myself into the potential I saw in myself. It was time to rediscover parts of me that I had muted for years as a result of being jaded and rejected. One of the bright sparks in my life suggested that I enter Mrs. South Africa. She was so sure that I would win, but more so that I would finally feed the itch to see myself in a new light and to live out my purpose. So I looked at her like, what? A pageant, me? No. So the fear in me skyrocketed because what do I know about pageants? Which brought me to lessons 3 and 4. Lesson number 3 is to never be afraid to take a detour into reinvention. A new path may look very different to everything else that you have been doing, but it may just be what you need to find yourself again. So refine and reinvent yourself, your business, your ideas, whatever is needed. Do so, doing so may propel you to greater heights. And lesson number 4 is to do it scared. Scared as you are, do it. Let the fear drive your hunger to better yourself, to work harder, and to succeed. Looking back into my corporate journey, I remember so many people who became stepping stones that helped me to get ahead. People who believed in me and others who didn't. But that's also okay. That brings me to the final lesson that I'll share today, although there are so many other lessons. And that is our success also lies in the company that we keep. As cliched as it may sound, it's not only what you know, but who you know. As people, I really believe that we were created as a network for one another to rely on. And similarly, in business, as it were in corporate, the relationships we build along the way play a crucial role in our ventures and their success. So be intentional about building the right bonds with the right people. Be a vessel unto others as you may require from time to time. But here's a bonus lesson: reach out to people when you don't need anything. That one speaks for itself. My life after winning Mrs. South Africa, my life changed, my whole life's trajectory changed for the better. 2024 has brought me to places and spaces that I've been both stretched and I've been so fulfilled. And I found the courage in the sound of my own voice. I'm reminded on a daily basis that what I believed for years, that winning is not for people like me, that is actually false. Each and every one of us has a winner in us for different things, and that I now advocate for possibility. It's possible for someone who looks just like me, comes from where I come from, and has lived the life that I lived to make it onto a world stage and represent their country. It's possible for someone who's just like me to have the courage to start from nothing with a small business and watch it grow. And it's possible for someone who has put themselves on mute to realize that their story actually matters and they are worthy of sharing their story. So, possibility is very much there. The networks that I've managed to surround myself with from the time that I entered to the time that I won and beyond have been the very networks that are carrying me to the projected success of my life, my business, um, the sisterhood that is within Mrs. South Africa. It stretches beyond the 10-month journey to the crown. It's taking a purposeful role to seeing to the success of your sister, being a firm believer in women's rights and women's wrongs, and holding each other accountable to your very own path and your very own journey and your very own lane. Um, With great influence comes great responsibility. And social media puts us on pedestals because we have somewhat of an influence, but the pressure to be perfect when perfect doesn't exist, winning Mrs. South Africa gave me the opportunity to influence with reality and relatability. The perfect woman doesn't exist. What does exist is an everyday woman who is trying to smash her to-do list but doesn't always get through it. The one who's working on being the best mom, the best wife, the one who gets up every day to work hard, the one doesn't always want to be in heels or makeup, the one who loves being goofy and making everyone else laugh, the one who's working on her body goals but doesn't always reach it, the one who doesn't want to be asked when she's having a baby because nobody knows half of her struggles, the one who's worked hard on her healing so she can be whole again. That woman exists. So I'm trying to play my part as an influencer in a responsible way. I found it more important to be me, to embody all that it is that makes me the person that I am, to be real in moments where I felt like the woman I have listed above, all those qualities that I've listed above. And all in all, to be authentic in everything that I do. I wish more of us would be okay with being ourselves as opposed to chasing a perfect image that really, really doesn't exist. So yeah, I think on the topic of influence, that's really, really my view. To be real, to be relatable, to be authentic, yeah, and to be me. So my transition from corporate to entrepreneurship is still very fresh and it's currently ongoing. My business is still very much at its grassroots. It's been a process of implementing lessons that I've learned over the years, those that I've shared, and many, many others, to work on building not only my business, but my brand. Each day I wake up to a new challenge that comes from being everything in your small company, from being an attorney on a call with the client to being the IT person if the internet is down. I'm grateful to all the clients though that have entrusted me with their matters so far, because it's not only revenue but experiences that money cannot buy. I could probably never articulate how grateful I am to my mentors and my sisters who have walked my journey with me, and especially those that have guided me. I find so much value in those that have walked a path ahead of us and stand with a torch or a lamp to shine your way as you come through. I can't emphasize the importance of mentorship and the shift that it has done in my life, the key role that it's played in me finding my voice and actually shining. Mentorship is game changing. I don't downplay the importance of mentorship. I couldn't emphasize it enough, So yeah, and looking back on my journey over the years, the person that I was, the person that I am now, it's incredible to reflect and just to see how transformative time and intention can be. It's also amazing to witness the shift that sharing space with the right people in one's life can have. I've said this before and I will always repeat it. Our superpower as women lies both in our uniqueness and our diversity. There's absolutely nothing that women cannot achieve, especially when we avail ourselves to one another and play active roles in seeing to the success of one another as women. And with that, I'd like to thank you rather for your time and for your attention to me sharing my journey with you.
And see from the chat box, Tshecho, you just that authentic self, that journey itself has been hugely valuable for people and lots of inspiration already. A couple of questions. Let's go through some of them. So the first one is, how did you use that fear to drive your success? When your friend said, enter Mr. South Africa, it'd be great for you, and you were like, no ways. How did you use that fear in your situation?
I think I looked at it more as a challenge to overcome the fear, because I mean, the fear doesn't really go away, but you do it scared anyway. Um, the fear also, I used the fear to sort of propel myself to want to be great, to do great, to make myself proud, to make those that are watching proud, those that believe in me proud. Um, my son, some of those things, um, you don't really pay attention. You don't really see who's watching. You don't always see who's watching, but people are always watching. People believe in you. People are pushing you. So I think I used the fear as a challenge to overcome, as a story to overcome, that I did it scared, but I did it anyway, and I did it my way. So yeah.
Critical that did it my way part. You said earlier on, people like me see myself, people like me winning, and then you did win. So I think there's two parts to that. One, overcoming that belief that it couldn't be somebody like you. But the second part that's sometimes even harder is accepting that you did win, accepting that
Mm.
you are now that new person. How did you learn through that process that you can share with others to be able to do the same?
I think that number one, um, self awareness is very important in a process like that. So for me, I had to remember the critical nuances that make me me. I can't run away from those things, even though my life has shifted and changed so much. Um, I can't take away the things that make me me. In the acceptance of the newness of life, the newness of the platform, the newness of the journey, the win. I can't separate myself from the things that make me really me. And I think being aware of those things has helped me with accepting the newness of the journey without shaking myself too much into like a panic. So I think in those instances, my self awareness or a journey towards self awareness was very critical to me accepting and moving and molding the newness of me with the old and the new.
Okay, perfect. So the questions come up in a few different ways, but how does one go and identify a coach or a mentor or a sponsor? And what's the best way to approach them?
I think first one has back to self-awareness. One has to be aware of the gaps, right? What do I need coaching with? What do I need help with? Where do I want to see myself and what's hindering me from what's standing between me and getting there? And then I think it's always important to find a coach that you can relate to, a coach that resonates with something within you that speaks to the need that you have. It's all good and well to identify someone who could be a coach, but because you admire them for a certain reason or for whatever they stand for, but they could potentially be the wrong mentor for what you're trying to address. So I think self-awareness must be number one, paramount to see what are you trying to address, what growth are you trying to address in yourself, and then identifying a coach or a mentor based on that.
Yeah, excellent advice. So people can't help you if you don't know what you need help on. So and
Yeah.
guidance on, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
So obviously your whole life and just listening to your story has been a journey of discovery, a journey of growth and
Mm,
development, stuff like that. But the Mrs. South Africa organization as a whole puts a lot of maybe pressure, but also opportunity to grow even before you get to being the reigning Mrs. South Africa. So
mm,
there's two elements of often to that growth. One is maybe overcoming something you're bad at or you have a challenge in or something like that. And the other one is being more you, playing to your strengths. So let's tackle both of those.
yeah.
On the downside, something you maybe weren't good at and that you needed to get good at or become better at. What's your biggest kind of challenge that you've overcome and turned into somewhat of a strength now through this growth path?
I this may come as a surprise to many, but public speaking is not a strength of mine. it's something that I worked on, something that I try to overcome. I do get very nervous. I do get very shy. I don't know why. I don't know why I become shy. I think it's imposter syndrome, but I do become very shy. Public speaking and having people's eyes on me, that was something that I had to work on. But also, looking at my using my strengths to overcome my weaknesses. I know that I'm good at research and preparation and putting myself together, and connecting with myself and speaking to myself and talking down the nerves to try and elevate the strengths that make me shine or make me feel like, okay, I've put my best foot forward. So definitely it was and I really thought that I'm a big people's person. I think going through the journey, I realized that maybe I'm a medium people's person and not a big people's person. Um, but I enjoy the journey of self-discovery, of growing, of learning about myself, about people, engaging, listening to people's stories, sharing my story, and like trying to make a difference in some or other way.
Mm, I love that. And I love that medium people's person. I might steal that because even people that love people, there's a point and you like your space and your time to reflect and
Yeah,
own and things like that. So why we put on the summit, and I say this every year when we even give away awards, and why a category for women? Well, if you take puberty and high school and corporate and life and business and mom and family and all the rest of it, it does a great job of distracting you from who you are and what you want and what you can contribute to the world. And you've gone through that journey. So what did you rediscover in the last few years about Tejo that maybe was always there, but it's now become front and center, and it's something that
yeah.
you realize this is your magic that you can share with the world?
Sure. I think, especially the last year or two, um, I think I realized that authenticity is definitely um, my number one. And why I say that is because I think one of the fears that I had when I thought about entering Mrs. South Africa was that I'm not a pageant girl. I don't have any pageant history. I don't speak pageant. I don't walk pageant. I don't but I realized that it's okay. It's really okay to be aware of what you can and what you can't do, and to be vulnerable about what you can and what you can't do, what you know and what you don't know, what you want and what you don't want, and sometimes not knowing what you want and what you don't want. So I think something that I really rediscovered or discovered and enjoyed really enjoyed embracing it is authenticity. I'd like to think I'm very funny. Just being myself, and I think I've enjoyed watching people accept me for who I am, and it's reminded me to accept people as they are and not want to put people in boxes and not want to put myself in a box unnecessarily. And just to be authentic, I think authenticity vibrates at the highest. I thought maybe love is the highest vibration, but I think authenticity, when you know a person, when you get to genuinely know a person, um that for me vibrates at the highest.
Mm, love that. And I think you've given us all the benefit of getting to know you a little bit at that level in your authenticity just in this short space of time. So maybe the last two questions. The first one is, how the hell do you do it? You run a business, you're a mom, you're a wife, you're a daughter, you're involved in the community, you're an influencer, you're Mrs. South Africa, you're having to dolly up and do all these different things. And there's only 24 hours in the day. How do you do it?
I just do it. I think that I don't have a chance to sit and wonder, how am I going to do it? I know what needs to get done and I just do it. also I think it's important to keep yourself accountable to like a to-do list, to write down the things that need to get done and to just do it. And when you commit and do it. And yeah, I don't have time to sit and wonder how am I going to get this done. I enjoy being busy though, and I don't know if it's oh, how do the woke people say it? Is it a trigger response or is it a I don't know, but I really enjoy being busy. um I think I get more done when I'm a little bit under pressure, not too much pressure, but I get things done when I'm under pressure. I make a to-do list and I enjoy the feeling of getting things done and ticking things off my to-do list. So I think that's pretty much how I do it. I try to get in pockets of rest from time to time because it does take a toll and it does get tiring, and it's okay to admit that I'm tired, I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed, I feel a little bit overstretched. So I just need to switch off for like 5 minutes and then I'll be back with to everything else that I need to get done. So, yeah, I think make a to-do list, prioritize, get things done, enjoy the feeling of getting things done. It's a healthy feeling.
Love that. Busy people get things done, and even rest is 5 minutes, but it's 5 minutes that you didn't have, so you're prioritizing that. Good. So you alluded to it early on when you said representing your country, but at the end of this year, you get to represent South Africa at the Mrs. World Pageant, and then you hand over your reign locally to somebody else. So what are you looking forward to in the coming years for you?
Sure, I'm looking forward to more of me. I'm looking forward to having a lot more fun, just as this year has given me like a very big glimpse into. Um, I'm looking forward to my business growing, that I really, really am, and to also continuing to be multifaceted. I not only am I an attorney, I'm a public speaker, I'm an MC, I do a lot of things, and I think I'm looking forward to seeing Tseho Kgailai, the brand, expanding and growing and touching a lot more lives. So I think that's what I'm looking forward to in the coming years. I'm really, really looking forward to Mrs. World, just the world experience, and yeah, and taking Tseho Kgailai from Soweto to the world.
I love that. Tsecho Kgalai from Soweto to the world, and I have no doubt that you will do that. So thank you very much for sharing your authentic and real self through your story. And if you just look at the comments, there's been a lot of inspiration just through you sharing. And I think you do that not just on this platform, but every day throughout all your interactions. So thank you, Tsecho, and good luck for the rest of the year and the Mrs. World. No doubt
Thank
you'll
you.
be up there, if not bring back the crown. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.